Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to my channel everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Zaki Taufiqurrahman. I am from class 2021C. Alright, first of all, introduction to the poetry. What is the poetry? So, poetry is a form of literature that use aesthetic and often rhythmic qualities of language, such as phonesthetic, sound symbolism, and metre to evoke meanings in addition to, or in place of, a prosaic ostensible meaning. Derived from the Greek poiesis, making, also called verse. A poem is a literary composition written by a poet using the principle. Poetry has a long and varied history, evolving differentially across the globe. It dates back at least to prehistoric times with hunting poetry in Africa and to panegyric and elegiac court poetry of the empires of the Nile, Niger, and Volta River valleys. Some of the earliest written poetry in Africa occurs among the pyramid texts written during the 25th century BCE. The earliest surviving Western Asian epic poetry, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was written in Sumerian. Early poems in the Eurasian continent evolved from folk song such as the Chinese saying as well as religious hymns. The Sanskrit Rig Veda, the Zoroastrian Jatas, the Hurrian song, and the Hebrew psalm, or from a need to retell oral epic as with the Egyptian story from Sinuhe, the Indian epic poetry, and the Homeric epic, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Ancient Greek attempts to define poetry, such as Aristotle, Aristotle's poetic, focus on the use of speech in the rhetoric, drama, song, and comedy. Later attempts concentrate on features such as repetition, verse form, and rhyme, and emphasize the aesthetic which distinguish poetry from more objectively informative prosaic writing. Poetry uses forms and conventions to suggest differential interpretation of words, or to evoke emotive response. Devices such as announcements, alliteration, onomatopoeia, and rhythm, and may convey musical or incantatory effect. The use of ambiguity, symbolism, irony, and of other stylistic elements of poetic diction often leaves a poem open to multiple interpretation. Similarly, figurative of speech such as metaphor, simile, and metonymy establish a resonance between otherwise disparate images, a layering of meanings, forming connection previously not perceived. Kindred forms of resonance may exist between individual pairs in their patterns or rhyme or rhythm. Some poetry types are unique to particular cultures and genre and respond to characteristics of the language in which the poet writes. Readers are accustomed To identifying poetry with Dante, Goethe, Mikey Weiss, or Rumi may think of it as written in lines based on rhyme and regular meter. There are, however, traditions such as biblical poetry that use other means to create rhythm and euphony. Much modern poetry reflects a critique of poetic tradition, testing the principle of euphony itself or alto guitar for gaining rhyme or set rhythm. In an increasingly globalized world, poets often adopt forms, styles, and techniques from diverse cultural and language. Poets have contributed to the evolution of the linguistic, expressive, and utilitarian qualities of their language. A Western cultural tradition extending at least from Homer to Rilke associates the production of poetry with inspiration, often by a muse, either classical or contemporary. In many poems, the lyrics are spoken by a character who is called the speaker. This concept differentiates the speaker character from the poet author, which is usually an important distinction. For example, if the poem runs "I kill a man in Reno," it is the speaker who is the murderer, not the poet himself. Alright, that was a basic introduction to poetry, and we will going to my explanation why did I choose love philosophy poem in this learning video. Well, I have some basic reasons, which is because I have analyzed this poem before and know some of the common meanings in this poem. So maybe it can make it easier for me in this learning video. So next, I will explain some of the basic concepts of the poem Love Philosophy. What is love philosophy about? So, Love's Philosophy poem is a romantic lover, playful argument, putting forward his case for the union of love. Natural imagery and strong rhyme appeal to the reader's sense, presenting this relationship as something innocent, simple, and inevitable. Philosophy here means an argument or way of thinking. Our modern use of the word romantic relates to an idealized sort of love, more specifically to the state of being in love characteristic by powerful, irresistible emotion, giving the idealization of a beloved and the prioritization of the relationship above everything else. However, the poetry of the Romantic poets was not just restricted to describing love. William Wordsworth defined poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings in his preface to the lyrical ballads. One common theme is that experiences were understood by Romantic poets through their effect on personal emotion. This is partly where our modern romantic love idea comes from. However, poetry by Wordsworth, Shelley, and Coleridge often share other hallmark characteristics. For example, the use of natural imagery and simple verse forms. As this poem by Shelley includes all of this, it is a good example of a romantic poem. Alright, well, that was a basic explanation of the poem Love Philosophy, and then next we will listen to some recitation for the poem Love Philosophy.
mountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single. All things by a law divine in another's being mingle. Why not I with thine? See, the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower could be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What are all these kissings worth, if thou kiss not me?
Love's Philosophy by Percy, Bysshe, Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single. All things by a law divine in one another's being mingle. Why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What are all these kissings worth, if thou kiss not me?
Okay, have you heard it well, guys? Previously, it was a recitation of the Love's Philosophy poem with a different recitation, a different tune, and a different mood. So, every poetry recitation is it not only glued to punctuation and text. We can recite poetry according to the tune we want to bring. Make the poem beautiful with your own version. Alright, then we will get into the main discussion of the learning video this time. So, every poetry it has a meaning, the overall meaning and each stanza. Therefore, I will explain a little about the meaning of the poem that we are talking about this time, namely Love Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The meaning that I will explain is the meaning of each stanza. So, the first stanza, the speaker begins his explanation of the philosophy of love by explanation various parts of nature. He talks about the fountains and the way they mingle with the river. He then mentions rivers and how they meet the oceans. This all symbolize people and imply that people are meant to get along with one another. The speaker later said that the winds of heaven mingle forever with sweet emotion. With this description, the speaker states that the physical and emotional are connected in several ways. He called it a divine law that all things will be in one spirit and will eventually meet and mingle. It symbolizes humanity, and the speakers believe that humans are meant to blend in with one another, but physically and emotionally. The use of the pressure in one spirit implies the idea that human beings are also meant to be spiritually connected to one another. With the last line of stanza of Love Philosophy, the speaker asks his hearer, "Why not I with thine?" This question reveals that the speaker's desire of love is not yet satisfied. The question implies his belief that it will only be natural for he and his love to unite body, soul, and mind. He believes that it would be every bit as natural as the river mingling with the sea, for he and the one he loves to be one. The tone of the question, however, implies that his love is either inadequate or he is far away from the one he loves, or he is posing the question to his would-be lover for the very first time. Well, in stanza 2, second stanza, the speaker begins once again to explain the ways in which the various parts of nature interact and depend on one another. He said that the mountains kiss the high heaven and that the waves collapse one another. It is clear that he really wants to have a physical relationship with the person he loves. His description of the physical interaction between parts of nature implies his belief that the physical interaction between two peoples is natural. He communicated to his girlfriend that it didn't feel right to be away from him. The speaker then used flowers to further describe his feelings about his feelings or of dissatisfaction. She described a sister flower and claimed that it would not be forgivable to deny her brother. This description causes the reader to lean towards the idea of this poem about unrequited love. The word underestimate seems to imply that the person she is talking to remains separate from her by choice. To the speaker, this seems unnatural because he really misses his love. The speaker continued to describe the physical relationship between the parts of nature when he claimed that the sun's rays capture the earth. This imagery allows the reader to understand the depth of the speaker's feeling. He felt as if hugging his loved ones would be as natural as the sun's rays capturing the earth. He described the way moonlight kisses the sea, further expressing his physical desire for the person he was walking to. The continuous personification of nature and the words used to describe the relationship within it provide insights into the intensity of the speaker's feeling. Words such as hanging out, grasping, and kissing all express this physical nature of the speaker's desire. However, process such as sweet emotion and in the speakers and the philosophy of love, with a question similar to the one he asks at the end of the first stanza. He asks, "What is the value of all this sweet work if you don't kiss me?" This is a tough question. He expressed his feelings that nothing he observes in life or nature has any value to him if he is not united with the person he loves. This last line identifies the tone of the rest of the poem, as it implies not only the speaker's strong desire for the person he loves, but also his lack of interest in living a life apart from him. This allows the reader to understand the depths of his love. It is interesting, however, that the speaker has implied that his loved ones are disgusted with him. So, ironically, he could claim that the love between the two them would be as natural as the confluence of rivers and ocean when it was clear the person he loved didn't share his feelings. To him, it may feel very unnatural to be with him physically, spiritually, or emotionally. The speaker doesn't seem to provide much insight into his loved one's feelings or thoughts, other than the subtle implication that he feels disgust with her. So guys, with that in mind, the reader can conclude that even though he feels it deeply, he doesn't understand his feelings or take them into consideration when he claims that it's not natural for them to be apart, but it's natural for them to be together. This gives the reader the idea that while the love is strong, it is very likely a matter. He may feel a deep longing for this woman, but he cannot yet identify with her feelings and respect her feelings. If he did, he might be able to let it go. As it is, the poem expresses an inability to let go and persistence in obtaining it despite his feelings for her. All of these factors can lead the reader to believe that philosophy of love is written about the classic feelings of unique with love. One spirit, implying that his desires are deeper than physical. He longs to be one with those he loves spiritually and emotionally and physically. Well, did you understand it, guys? That was an explanation of the meaning of love philosophy. Did you understand about my explanation? Very interesting, isn't it? There are many beauties in his poetry. Well, the next as discussion is figurative language. What is the figurative language? Figurative language is a style of language used by the author or speaker to convey a message imaginatively and figuratively, which aims to make the reader or listener get a certain effect from the style of language used. So we will discuss the figurative language contained in the poem Love's Philosophy. Figurative language can be in the form of words, clause, parasa, prosa, and so on. Let's go on to what types of figurative language exist in Love Philosophy poem. Well, the first, there is personification. Personification. What is personification? Let me explain what the personification first. Personification is to personify an object, means to describe it figuratively with human traits to create a clear picture of the object in your reader's mind. In the poem Love Philosophy, the author Percy Bysshe Shelley has used personification such as fountains mingle with rivers, the mountain kiss the heavens height, moonbeams kiss the sea, and the waves hold each other. Here, mountains, fountains, waves, and moonlight are given human abilities such as kissing, grasping, and blending with each other like humans. That is personification, one of the figurative language in this poem. After that, the second is metaphor. What is the metaphor? A metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps to explain an idea or make a comparison. Now, the metaphor in this poem, the poet has used the extended metaphor in his poem to establish the idea that love is spiritual. For example, fountains mingle with the river, and the moonlight kisses the sea. Here the bones Here the bones of natural object represents his idea of love. Here, here, so here of here the bones of natural objects represent his idea of love. The next one is the hyperbole. What is the hyperbole? Hyperbole is a figurative of speech where the author deliberately e- exaggerates something. Shelley has used this device in the fifth line, which is stated as, "No one is single in this world." Here the author exaggerates loneliness. Okay, that was the figurative language found in the poem Love Philosophy. Actually, there are many figurative language in poetry. There are only a few that are contained in the Love Philosophy poem. So that I know of 16 figurative language. What I know. The first is synesthesia, personification, metonymy, synecdoche, euphemism, simile, metaphor, onomatopoeia, allusion, symbol, oxymoron, paradox, juxtaposition, antithesis, hyperbole, and the last is irony. Those are the types of figurative language in poetry. What I have explained earlier, all of that is the beauty. What I have explained earlier of all that is the beauty of poetry. What makes poetry beauty? Here, let me tell you. Strong, accurate, interesting words, well placed, make the reader feel the words' emotion and intentions. Choosing the right words for their meaning, their contents, their sounds, even the look of them makes a poem memorable. The words become guides to the feelings that lie between the lines. How can we identify the beauty of the of the poem? By analyzing the poems, getting a certain feelings when reading the poems. With these things, we can find a beauty in poems. Okay, friends, we have arrived at the last learning session. That is the conclusion. In this session, we will discuss a summary of the poem and assignment for all of you. Okay, let me just explain the summary of the poem Love Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. So, there are 3 stages in this summary that I will tell you all. The first one is popularity. Love. The second one is love philosophy as a representative of love. And the last one, the major themes. Just go the first, popularity. Written by Percy Bysshe Shelley, a famous romantic poet. Love Philosophy is one of the best love poems. It was first published in 1819. The poem presents the idea of how everything in nature and life has a companion except the pot. The pot draws the graphic picture of the togetherness of all things in nature. The popularity of the poem rests in its representation of love philosophy in terms of humanity intimacy parallel to the binding cosmic force. Then the second, love philosophy as a representative of love. The poet presents his tender feelings about love. He spoke about his utmost desire to stay with his beloved. He longs for his love and feels frustrated that his love frustrated that his love is not by his side when he sees beautiful things around him in pairs. He says that intimacy is the law of nature and supports this argument by describing various parts of nature. He further implies that people are meant to mingle with one another. His description of the physical interaction of natural objective foreshadow his belief that physical attraction between human beings is natural. By addressing his beloved, he says that there is no reason for them to stay separate. And the last is major themes. The main theme of the poem is the phenomenon of unrequited love. The whole text discusses the intimate nature of love. The poet explains this idea using figurative language and natural imagery. He argues that everything that exists in the universe has a companion and that there is no meaningful separation in the natural world. The idea of love and relationship will surely enchant readers. Alright, then we will read the poem together. You all read after me, okay? We will start. Love Philosophy by Percy, Bysshe, Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The wines of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single. All things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle. Why not I within? See, the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves collapse one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother, and the sunlight collapse the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What is all this sweet word worth if you know kiss, not me? Alright, good all. We have read poems philosophy together. Did you all feel certain vibes in this poem? I hope you all feel it. Well, before we go to your assignment, I want to make sure you all understand all of our discussion in this time. I hope you all understand it, and if something is not understood, you can comment below this video and I have a task for all of you. Namely that you can make an analysis in your way of the poem of philosophy that we have discussed in this time. You make an analysis with your own way of the poem of philosophy. You can comment down below, do your analysis, and it seems that my learning video will end here this time. So sad, happy learning, greetings education, and greetings one warrior. Learn all the way to China. Until we meet again, all my friends. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.